All right, this is going to be a cool video. Um, so in the last one, we introduced functions where we we created some very simple math functions. We added two numbers and we subtracted two numbers. Super simple. And then we called those right here. Now, because of how our compiler works, it has to compile from the top to the bottom. Now, in our case, the logic for our math functions was down here below our main, or below really where we first called it out. So we had to do what's called a forward declaration. We had to declare basically the what do you call this? What's the declaration of our function? This is the signature, the exact same signature that we used here is found right down here, and you can see that VS Code highlighted it. Okay, so but this is kind of messy, you know. It would sure be nice if this was a little cleaner. And there's a ton of benefits to what I'm going to show you, and we're going to get into them. So bear with me for a second. What if I could put this stuff into another file, all this right here, all these declarations into another file, and anytime and anywhere in any file I needed to use this add or subtract function, I could just include this in my file, you know. So I don't really want to have to copy and paste this all over the place. So we're going to let the preprocessor do that. Now, we already have been doing that right here in this include file. Okay, all this include file is telling the preprocessor is, hey, when you see a pound include, just literally cut and paste the contents of this file right here, right here. Okay, so we're going to do that here. So let's go over here and make a new file. We're going to call this math stuff. Now in this case, it's going to be a .h for header. Okay. Now the actual extension, not super important. Sometimes you'll see an HPP. I use a .h. It's also super common. So in our case, I've got this blank header file. Now what I want to do is I want to copy this. So Control C over here. Now I'm going to paste this. I'm going to go down a couple lines. Control V, and I just paste it right here. Now there's one little caveat here, and this is I can show you why this is important. But there's another preprocessor symbol that we use in header files, and it's this. It's called the star pragma. And then we want to make sure, for a bunch of reasons, that this file is only included once. So we write once. Okay. There's another way to do this called a header guard. For all these modern compilers, this works just fine. But you'll also see what's called a header guard. We'll get into those later. But I use this all the time. Okay. So I'm going to save this. Now, I have this header file here. Really what I want to do is just cut and paste these declarations right here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to say pound include. Now I used quotes here instead of these greater than or less than brackets. I'll explain why in a second. But what do we call it? Math stuff. There it is. So it's got it right there. And that's it. So if I think if I control, where's my shortcut? There it is. If I hit control and I click on it, it'll take me right to it. Or if I right click on this and go to definition, it'll also take me to this file. Okay, and it'll do this for any include. So I could do this with this IOStream library. Right click, go to definition, and you can see a whole bunch of code that we didn't write, which is great. So again, all this include does is just cut and paste the contents of this file and put it right here. So this code will totally run right now. So let's go ahead and compile this again. So let's go terminal, new terminal. Again, same thing we've always done. Lang ++ main.cpp -o app.exe. Okay, done. And now we've got our app.exe, and sure enough, if I run this, hit enter, we will see the sum of 5 and 7 is 12. No difference. Okay, so it seems like we just made life more complicated. Now we've got another file. Really did the same thing as before. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. VS Code did some stuff here with some settings that I don't really need it. This file, it still looks a little complicated. What if I wanted to put these functions really in its own file? What if I had a file just for functions? And then I could compile those, and anytime I wanted to use them in my program, I can. I would just need to include those preprocessor, or sorry, the forward declarations, which are sitting right in this file right here. So anytime in any file I wanted to use my add or subtract function, I could just include the forward declarations, and then I could call them out. So that's what we're going to do now. So we've got our header file. I want to put all of this code right here in its own file and compile it. So what we're going to do is create another file. Now, this one is going to be a CPP file, so we'll call this mathstuff.cpp. Okay, so you notice I've got two files, same name, different extension. This is very common. So we know these two are related. So the first thing I want to do, okay, is I want to include this header file. So let's go pound include math stuff. Let's see here. And now I'm going to go ahead back to my main. I'm going to just copy these out. Copy, actually cut. Let's put them in here. Done. Okay. So what we're doing is we've got, and actually we don't really, the more I think about it, we don't really need to put this here. It's very common to do this, and there's a few reasons for it. But in our very, very simple case, this actually isn't necessary, but it's a good practice to get into. So we've got our include, which includes our header, and then we've got our the actual logic for our functions right here. Okay, so let me save this. I'm going to save this file. Okay, so this looks really, really simple right now. This is great. So now what we need to do is compile all of this. Now we've been in the in fact, let me pull up a terminal here. Terminal. Now we've been used to compiling just a single file. Now we're going to do multiple. So remember, we've got our main.cpp, we've got our mathstuff.cpp also. So I'm going to hide this just to give me some room to type all this in. So all you do is feed it both of those CPP files. So we're going to go clang ++. We'll go main.cpp space, and now you can just list all of your CPP files here. So we had mathstuff.cpp. Okay, so in our case we only had those two. We're going to do a -o. This is our executable. We'll call it app.exe and hit enter. And sure enough, it has created our application. So what happened was Clang compiler compiled both the main.cpp and mathstuff.cpp into two temporary files that you can't see right now because we did it all in one shot. And then the linker took those two files and then linked them together into their own application. Now, if we wanted to, we could see both of those individual files here. So we can compile those separately. So clang ++ main.cpp. I'm going to say -c for compile. And you'll see the object file for main. Now let's do it with the other one. Clang ++ math stuff.cpp -c for compile only. Boom. There's that one. And now let's link them together. Okay, so we've just broken down this whole this compilation process into its various steps. So now I want to link this main.o, which if I click on this, you can't read it. It's just machine code. So let's link these two files together into our application. So clang ++. We had main.o and we had math stuff.o. I'm going to hide this so you can see it better. Clang ++. We have our main object file, our math stuff object file, and now we're going to output to our app.exe. Done. So this is the linker's job right here. And sure enough, there's our app. Let's go ahead and run it. So drag this to here, hit enter, and sure enough, 5 + 7 is still 12. Okay, so I'd like you to watch this one a couple times. There's a lot of stuff in here. Make sure you understand what we just did. And the best way to learn this stuff is to actually do it. So watch this a couple times, follow through it, and then turn the video off and see if you can do it from scratch. If you can do it from scratch, congrats, you learned it.